Hey everybody, it's Jack. Welcome back to another episode of Jack's Unholy Racket. Shout out to Diego on Twitter for reminding me that I have a YouTube channel. It's so awesome that you guys are supporting me, and I make these videos for myself just for fun, but it's always a lot more fun if people are interested in checking them out. So I've got another collection of 10 CDs. Most of these are relatively new. Some of them are just old favorites that I never get tired of talking about. So let's jump into it. The first one we have is Stillbirth, Back to the Stone Age. This is a CD-only release. This is technically their sixth album, but what it is a re-recording of some of their old songs from previous albums with their latest lineup, better production, better performances all around. Really cool cover here of one of the Stillbirth members facing down a dinosaur monster, and of course they've got their jointlet to make sure that they're safe to protect them. This is, as typical with the band, just slamming brutal death metal, but with fun in mind. The subject matter is fun. The approach to the album is fun. They've got movie samples, bass drops, just all kinds of crazy shit. They are absolute professionals when it comes to this style of music. They're possibly my favorite band in the kind of slam realm. They just write fantastic music. They have two bass players. Lucas, the frontman of the group, frequently plays all the instruments on the album except for the drums. So just an amazing group. I love these guys. If you have not heard this, check it out. It's short, it's punchy, it's very, very enjoyable. Stillbirth, Back to the Stone Age. This is on Rotten Roll Records out of Germany. Not easy to find, CD only. Very grateful to have a copy in my collection. Up next, Mylingar, Döda själar. Swedish band, translates to Dead Souls, the album title. All of their album titles are Dead Something. And that's a pretty good indication of what you're going to get with them. This is in the Pissgrave style of just utterly dissonant death metal that the first few times you listen to it, it's almost an industrial vibe of just kind of noise and cacophony. Then the more you listen to it, the more you realize there's some actually pretty intricate riffs and dynamics going on. This is a joint release between Amor, Fati and 20 Bucks Spin. I believe this is their second full-length album, and they also have an EP. One of my favorite bands in this style. They are just incredible. The level of dissonance and darkness and hatred that comes through. But like I said, it rewards repeat listens where you can actually kind of access the riffs and know what's coming next in kind of a fearful way. If you have not heard these guys, definitely check this out. They're on 20 Bucks Spin, so you know they're high quality. I'm hoping that they put out another record soon. This came out in 2019, I believe. And I'm just ready for another offering of nastiness. Highly recommended from Mylingar. Up next is a pretty much brand new one. This is Human Prey, Grave Robbers from Outer Space. This is exactly as much fun as you'd expect based on the cover art. These guys are from Germany. I don't think I mentioned Stillbirth, also from Germany. This is their second album on Rising Nemesis Records. Rising Nemesis does not have a very good internet presence, but go to their Metal Archives page and start listening to everything they've ever put out. They have such great variety. It's all pretty much on the extreme side, death metal, brutal, things like that. But the differences in the bands that they find, there's always something very, very unique about them. This second album, Human Prey, very, very cool stuff. Kind of a like B-movie sci-fi vibe. They have some really funny samples from old films. The CD's in my car right now, so you'll forgive that it's not in here. But again, another short, punchy album that doesn't really waste time with anything. They just deliver the riffs and some fun along the way. Highly recommended. It's better than you'd expect, thinking, kind of like a sci-fi brutal death schmear, but it's amazing. Highly recommended, so check that out. Up next, we have Hanternoz. I forgot how to look up how to pronounce this title. They're French, so I'm not going to attempt it, but it translates to Seafoam Burial Shroud. This is a very much water metal album. There are like rickety boat sounds in the background, crashing waves, not to mention the folk instrumentation they use is very much like a metal band forming on the prow of a ship. They've been out there for years and they're losing their minds. My favorite thing about this album is that it's totally shambolic and messy. It sounds like a group of drunken pirates formed a metal band. They're way better than you would expect, but it's still a mess. You have woodwind instruments, string instruments, guitars, not just the usual black metal riffing, but clean electric guitars, acoustic guitars, and some of the craziest vocals on like a folk influenced album you'll ever hear. Very, very heavy stuff, but ultra melodic from an instrumentation standpoint. I really love this band. They had another album come out this year that I cannot afford to import on vinyl. This is a CD only EP. I highly recommend if you have not heard this band to check them out. If the kind of folk tag usually scares you off, they are still very heavy, very dark, but a lot of fun. Like I said, there's that shambolic backyard campfire kind of vibe where everybody just kind of picks up an instrument and bangs on it, but they create some very, very captivating melodies. So hanternaz, Seafoam, Burial Shroud. Up next, very, very cool. I'm very happy to have this. This is With All My Hate, Impaired Existence. This one comes in kind of like a special case. This is from Amputated Vein Records out of Japan. They're one of my favorite follows on Twitter because they have an absolutely gigantic distro. I almost wish I lived in Japan just so I could take advantage of their distro. If you're anywhere in Asia or nearby that you can purchase from them at a good rate, check them out. Amputated Vein Records, their selection is insane and they carry absolutely everything. This album came out earlier this year. This is their fourth album. They're out of Spain. This is just death metal. It is not overly brutal. It's not overly technical, but the songwriting is top notch. They really have some well-developed songs, kind of start in one area and end up in another area that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Very, very fiery, just enraged stuff. It's just a duo. One member plays all of the instruments and the other member does the vocals. And the amount of racket they create here is just insane. I highly, highly recommend this. With All My Hate, Impaired Existence, out of Spain, Amputated Vein Records. Very, very cool presentation too, with the slipcase and some crazy art of some evil, evil monks, half goat, and they're definitely burning that priest alive. So rest in peace. Next is a relatively older one, but one that I never get tired of talking about. This is Vanum, Ageless Fire on Profound Lore. This is one of the last CDs I bought before I switched to kind of like strictly vinyl if it was available on vinyl. I know a few of my longtime Twitter buddies are a huge fan of this album. I think I've heard from Kep, the original Kep, that Under the Banner of Death is his favorite black metal song of all time. So if you haven't heard the album, for that alone, you have to check it out. This is one that I heard in a stream of albums when I was getting caught up with 2019 around October of that year or so. It didn't really blow me away. I heard a bunch of other albums that sort of were similar, kind of fiery black metal. It wasn't until I went and revisited it a few times that I realized how catchy it was and how basically rock ready the riffs are. It's black metal. It's very heavy, great atmosphere. The cover is a great indication of kind of the vibes you're going to get, kind of like a cloudy hellscape. And the more you listen to it, the more you realize, wow, this is like really accessible, great riffs, quality stuff. The guys who are in this band, they share members with groups like Yellow Eyes and Ash Borer and groups like that. So you have kind of an idea of what they're getting at. But this is my favorite of the bunch of all of the bands that those guys have been in. Yeah, just easy listening, black metal, super accessible. If you know somebody who doesn't think they like black metal, give them this album because it's super easy to listen to. Very, very catchy. Very, very cool. Highly recommended. They hopefully are due for another album soonish. I'm definitely ready. I've got all their other stuff. They've got one other LP and an EP. Got those on vinyl, but like I said, I was off of it at the time. Next up, we have Abominable, Putridity, and the End of Human Existence. Russian band that I think a lot of you guys know. These guys are very well known in the slam kind of era or in the slam genre. This is their debut album, 2007, I want to say. It's getting up there in age. This is a reissue from 2009 on the Brutal Bands label. It's been reissued a gazillion times because it is a great album. It's in my car, as you can see. This band is a good blueprint for brutal death in general. Their riffs are so incredibly thick. They're like the lines on the Golden Gate Bridge or something, just this thick, very, very harsh sound. The riffs themselves are not overly technical. It's almost like a hardcore band that just kicked it up as many notches as they could on the heavy scale, the down tune scale. The vocals are absolutely ridiculous. It sounds like a blender going at full speed. Great songs though. Even though they're simple, even though that they're kind of like over the top with the ridiculous heaviness, the actual experience of sitting down and listening to the album is really, really awesome. This has been in my car for a long time. It's short, it's powerful, and like I said, if you're a fan of hardcore and the idea of just having like breakdowns be somewhat simple, building, chugging riffs, they do that, except they skip the buildup and they just start with the ultimate heaviness. If you have not heard these guys, they just had a comeback album this year after about 9 years away. I recommend that even more highly. I cannot get the vinyl to save my life, but in the meantime, stream them, check them out if you're not on top of them. Russian Brutal Death, they really set the stage for a lot of other bands, and this is their debut, which you cannot go wrong with. Next, Anthropophagus Depravity, Apokalypto. This is on Comatose Music out of Kings Mountain, North Carolina. One of my favorite labels that's got a medium presence on the internet, but could definitely use more support with the quality of music they're putting out. This came out earlier this year, and I have been recommending it to people like a mental patient. It is an incredible brutal death album with a very cool theme. They stick with the kind of apocalypto Mayan culture, end of the world theme throughout, with some samples, with some riffs. The atmosphere in general is just very claustrophobic and frightening. And of course, the songs themselves are just unbelievably heavy and over the top. The drumming on this is some of my favorite of the year. It genuinely sounds like the drummer is keeping time. That's one piece of what he's doing. And then just having the time of his life behind the kit on the other hand. His ability to blend dissonant riffs and kind of build in and out of certain passages with the drumming technique is just amazing. The intro is half musical, half movie sample, and the drumming on that track alone should be enough to draw you in and make you want to listen to the rest of the episode. This just came out of the car after about 2 months in there. Comatose Music, awesome. Support them out of North Carolina. This band and this album are amazing. Check it out. Do not miss it. Apokalypto. Awesome stuff. Next up, Devil's Reef, Chosen by the Sea. Who knows why I love this so much? You are correct, because it is amazing water metal. These guys are very, very young. I believe they're from Maryland. This is a self-release CD that the mighty K-Man put me up on back when it was released. Incredible stuff. It's just this weird technical mishmash of classic death metal. There's like an old school vibe throughout because it is a very kind of raw, aggressive sound, but the technicality of the songwriting itself and the instrumentation is really something. The way that they kind of build in and out of songs, the way they use samples and atmosphere to build a mood up is just incredible. You might be able to see this was signed by the band. I got this on Discogs from the frontman, and very, very cool to have this. I'm so happy for these guys because their next EP is coming out on the Artisan Era this Friday. I am so excited for them. This is a CD only release, but their new EP is going to be on vinyl. Check it out on artisanera.com. They are absolutely gorgeous. I know it's going to be an incredible EP because this CD is insane. I've been listening to it since it came out. I think it was March or April. Nowhere near being sick of it. This is just one of those heavy albums, which I'll lump it in as death metal, but the reality is these guys, they're young, but you can tell they've listened to everything. They have influences through all kinds of heavy music, and they just play what they want to play. They write what they feel, unique songs to the band. You know, you finish listening to this album and you're like, wow, that was something different. That was kind of from left field. So if you haven't checked these guys out, definitely do it before or with their new EP on Friday, coming out on Artisan Era, Devil's Reef. This one is Chosen by the Sea, an amazing water metal album from earlier this year that blew me away, continues to. Last but not least, hopefully you've noticed the theme for this episode is record labels that I've loved. I chose a different label for each release. And as you guys know, I'm a big proponent of just supporting labels. If I love it, 10 out of 10, I'm going to buy it. If I like it a lot, 7 out of 10, and it's a label that I love, I'm probably still going to buy it because that will mean more 10 out of 10s down the line. And this last one is an example of a label that is basically only putting out 10 out of 10s. They're kind of messing with my budget. And that label is Everlasting Spew out of Italy. Awesome band with a great presence on, awesome label with a great presence on Twitter. Very cool to see them popping up on posts that I share of bands that I appreciate that they're putting out. This is Disembodiment, Mutated Chaos. This is their debut EP. You can't make out the cover no matter where I hold it, but um, this is very Dark Souls, the video game influence. There's a song on here called Ceaseless Discharge, which is one of the bosses from Dark Souls. Brutal death, but it has this blackened kind of cavernous vibe that is not necessarily unique, but very welcome. You listen to a string of albums that are kind of tech death, mellow death, brutal slamming stuff. This is going to be one that sticks out in a major way. It's way too short. It's 5 songs and an intro. It's an EP, so okay, I'm fine that it's short, but I wanted more when I heard this. Filthy, grimy, crawling chaos. The band itself sounds like one living organism that's just kind of taking over the world instead of a group of people kind of making a racket. They really kind of form together like a transformer and just kind of destroy things. I can't recommend this enough for a couple of reasons. One, the label is amazing. Two, I want the band to make more music. And three, it's really short. So it's one of those things where, oh, there's so much new music to hear, I can't keep up with everything. Pick something like this. It'll be over in 20 minutes. It'll completely melt your face. It'll leave you wanting more. You'll wind up looking at the rest of the Everlasting Spew roster and hopefully finding even more stuff that you like. So that was another 10 pack from me. I always have more albums to talk about. I appreciate all the support from everybody. Drop me a comment if you like one of these or if you want to see a review of something that you know I've got, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.